Hello everyone, welcome to Wrestling Royalty and Give It a Haul, yeah. And tonight we are going to be talking about the partnership of NXT and TNA. So very much like Wrestling Royalty and Give It a Haul, yeah. It's a perfect partnership. We're going to be discussing the ins and outs of it. We're going to be discussing why they might have partnered up, what we've seen so far, and what we might expect in the future. And because we're talking about partnerships, I can't do this on my own. I need someone else to be helping me out here. And it's been a little while. He's coming back nice and refreshed. He's had a few weeks off. He's had a lovely summer barbecue tonight, I believe, as well. So I'm going to bring him in right now. Mr. Sam Smith, look at that. Look how calm and peaceful he is right now.
I'm glad you acknowledged that, Andy. Like, we all know who the star is. I'm just, but it's your show. It's your show. It's just, every show has to have a face. I'm joking, of course. I'm joking.
It's our show. This is our community, and it's good to have you back on, my friend. Really good. I hope you've had some lovely downtime. I know the people have been missing you. I've been mistaken for you, which I feel like is impossible. But people have been saying hi when they
no, have they? Oh,
yeah.
I have watched all the ones you've done, and I didn't notice that. So I'll go back and have a little look. But
yeah, some of the live comments have been asking after you, so it's good to have you back on, and hopefully they'll now realise that we're not the same person. It's not Sam and Andy.
No. I wear a hat. That's the obvious difference, and
that is true.
And I usually have somewhat of a faker tan than you. So those are the two differences.
And I normally have a little bit of facial hair going on in comparison.
Yeah. I've just shaved mine off. It was getting a bit crazy, to be fair, but it's gone. It's gone.
Especially if you're here in the UK, where it's been we've finally got a little bit of summer in July, which I think is going to last about a day, and it will be raining tomorrow. But we'll see. It's been lovely today. So we are, as I said, going to be talking about NXT and TNA, which I feel is very apropos to have my friend back on, because Sam is a huge TNA fan. And he's knowledgeable about it, and also, quite frankly, he is on Rascalz. He is our aficionado who has talked to a lot of the TNA stars as well. So you can see a lot of interviews over on Rascalz, both on YouTube and on Rascalz.com as well. So make sure you do go check that out. I would just give a shout out to our moderator Mark, who is in, who says, "Say our name and we appear. We believe in." Give me a hole, yeah. I struggled to think what I was going to say there, but yeah. Thanks, Mark, for being in.
Did you notice a couple of weeks ago on NXT? I don't know if they've done it since, but notice the pay-per-view, when the pay-per-view Heatwave, when that ended, just at the final couple of seconds, it was Joe Hendry.
Yeah.
I'm just going to open this door because it's a damn sauna in here. I'll be 1 minute.
No worries. And Mark's keeping us right and saying that SmackDown is taped. Next week's is taped. This week's is live because they're off on their Japanese tour, I believe, is coming up very shortly. But we've also got next week. I'll be able to tell you straight away. Next week's show will be a preview show because we've got SummerSlam next weekend, which is felt like it's come out of nowhere. But also it's a big event, so it's one of the big six or whatever they call it. These big five, they seem to get bigger in number each time. But it's a huge stadium show, so it'd be a good one. Be good.
Are we on six now? Because like my last count, it was the traditional big four plus Money in the Bank. So have we added another one now?
I feel like there was another one that they added in, but now I'm struggling to remember because they've been making like big things about like Elimination Chamber, because obviously they sent it across to like Toronto, and then this year it was in Australia. So I don't know. All their events are pretty big these days. So anyway. Yeah. Speaking of big events, though, let's get into it. NXT and TNA. Let's throw up some slides. Now, it's going to be a bit of a meandering thing, so it's difficult to pinpoint exactly where this collaboration started.
I can tell you what.
Certainly, this year we're seeing more collaboration between both WWE and TNA. But if you rewind a little bit further back, then we have seen things like Mickie James turning up with the Knockouts title. That was a massive moment, which I think it was a big signal to show that WWE are open to the right kind of relationship, but very much it's going to be dictated to on WWE's terms as well. But TNA seem to be happy with that. But this year, we've really progressed. So, Sam, I saw you kind of nod in agreement. Is that where we think you can pinpoint the start of it?
Yeah, I'd say that was the beginning because that alone was historic. Mickey
Mm,
James, for starters, she was signed to. They were Impact at the time. She was signed to them, and not only is her coming out a big deal while she's signed to them, that would be still a big deal, but it wouldn't be earth shattering. It's the fact that she had a belt with her was earth
yeah.
shattering, and the commentators went, "That is the Impact Wrestling Knockouts champion."
Hmm.
That was them acknowledging TNA without sarcasm or without poking fun at them, because they had acknowledged TNA a couple of times before,
Yeah.
uh, pre AEW, but without ever but it was mostly to poke fun at them. And sometimes it was warranted, but on this occasion, it was them not I'd say treating them like an equal, just treating them like a peer. You know, here she is, and it is nice. Like that to me was the beginning of this. And
Hmm.
obviously, what happened a couple of years later with Jordynne Grace just blew the bloody roof off, which I imagined you'll be coming to next.
Yeah, so as you can see from this picture at the Royal Rumble in 2024, very early on in the match, we got Jordynne Grace, and she got a massive pop.
Yeah,
So I think this sort of illusion that people are under that WWE don't really, or WWE fans don't venture outside the WWE bubble was kind of burst
yes,
quite quickly with the response that she got because she was made to feel like a very big deal. Now, I'm not saying every WWE fan knows who she is, but I also think she's one of those names who has kind of crossed into, the mainstream fans would know her. So it was a very smart move, and she looked an absolute star. I think WWE put her in a position, and she ran with it. Absolutely ran with it with two hands, which was great to see. And again, the commentators weren't afraid to kind of say this is where she's from, like
yeah,
and kind of shout out TNA. And we're not really going to get into it too much because I think one thing we never try and do is poo poo on certain things that are done. There's a lot of things on social media talking about how this collaboration is so much better than the one that AW had with with Impact at the time, and obviously now TNA, where Kenny Omega became their champion, and then they dropped it to Christian, but it wasn't on a kind of like a big show or anything like that. And there was a lot of things where it didn't seem to work hand in hand. It was very much a case of AEW took what they wanted and ran with it in that way and things like that. We're not going to get into it because I just feel like there's a lot of negativity around it. What I want to do is celebrate NXT
yeah.
and TNA's collaboration here. But what did you think of Jordynne Grace at the Royal Rumble? I know we go back and watch the stuff that we do in the Royal Rumble reviews and stuff like that, but what did you think in this moment, looking back at it?
Well, it was perfect because not only did it just showcase her as her, and I get why she needed to be eliminated relatively early. I do get that, but
Mm,
it was nice that because she had just taken the belt off Naomi or Trinity in TNA a matter of weeks, possibly days before that. So, but it was a babyface versus babyface match. And so when they kind of came face to face in the Rumble, it was like, you again. Okay, nice to see you. Now let's go. And
yeah,
they went from the hugging to the punching. So it was nice that they had the respect, but the competitive edge. And I actually thought to myself, that right there epitomizes the entire relationship. Let's hug, then let's punch each other. Let's acknowledge each other,
yeah,
then let's go to war, but in a sportsmanship kind of way, not an underhanded way. Because there's like spoiler alert, there is a feature about to be live on WrestleSphere. I'm going to give it a day or so to push it live. All about this, all about the WWE and TNA relationship and why it's genius. But tonight we can give you a bit of a preview of that and share what we think. But yeah, Jordynne Grace, I thought more so than Mickey James, because here's the thing with Mickey James, she was already a WWE legend as well as a TNA legend.
mm,
It's like Eric Young. She's considered a big deal in both places, where Jordynne Grace isn't. Jordynne Grace is a TNA property, a TNA original, if you like. I know she's been to loads of places, but she is TNA through and through. So so it was a much bigger deal, basically, is what I'm saying. Oh, Mark's gifted someone a membership. Who's going to do that? Who's going to grab it?
But he also put, "Oh God, it happened again. YouTube membership gifts are meant to be random, not given to the gift." The thoughts there. So thank you, Mark. And I'm sure I honestly don't actually know how it works. I know, like, on the back end, that's all looked after, like Dan and whoever will look after that side of things. But yeah, thank you very much. I know that's a really kind thing to do. I do know that. So yes, so yeah, big deal. Look, here he is, John G. Look, I told you, John. Like, we are both separate people. We're both here today. Thank you for saying hello to both of us.
I appreciate that, John. Thank you for confusing me with Andy. I am. I'm sure he's more. He enjoys it more than I do, but I enjoy it too.
Not at all, John. Thank you for joining us. I'm not sure where you are. Let us know in the comments whereabouts are you. Where are you located? Are you enjoying the sunshine in the UK, or are you boiling in the heat in the US, or further afield? Let us know. But yeah, we moved on. So Jordynne Grace has kind of been one of those ones who has been back and featured in multiple storylines so far. Quite key, really, was her tilt at the title, the NXT Women's title, at Battleground in Las Vegas. And now she went up against Roxanne Perez, and a lot of people were kind of speculating of, like, how are they going to do this? Because I think most people would say, yeah, Jordynne Grace is going to absolutely wipe the floor with her. They did manage to kind of, like, worm out of it in the way that people thought it might, and it was a very sort of, like, messed up finish. But
I loved it. I thought it was bloody brilliant.
These two women that you can see here then fed into, like, future events, because Tatum Paxley had a shot at Jordynne Grace on the next TNA show that they had on. I can't remember what it was called. It was on a Friday night.
Oh, it was one of the monthly specials. I
like
forget.
Under Siege or something?
Under Siege, yeah, that was the one. Yeah, because in TNA they have their big pay-per-views, but then they have, like, the monthly specials, which are a cut above TV. But well, saying that, WWE, NXT do monthly specials as well, I suppose, in many ways, don't they?
Yes.
But yeah.
So yeah, we got Tatum Paxley kind of had her shot, and then it also builds into to Saturday and tomorrow night, where we're going to see at Slammiversary, Jordynne Grace is defending her TNA Knockouts Championship against Ash by Elegance. So yeah, we're seeing storylines play out, not just in the bubble of NXT or in the bubble of TNA. They're kind of, like, conversing and going between the two of them, which is nice to see, because what people might think is, like, well, as a WWE fan, you might be thinking, why is Dana Brooke here? Like, why is Dana Brooke showing up? Why are they calling it Ash by Elegance? What's that about? And it might pique your curiosity and go, all right, I want to see Jordynne Grace absolutely destroy her. Where can I see that? Well, the answer is tomorrow night on Slammiversary. And that kind of, like, continued, which was kind of cool to see at Battleground. So yeah, it's an interesting one to kind of see. But what did you make of this square, like, rivalry going on?
I really liked it, because here's the thing: one of the beauties of TNA is that they, and I'm not just putting them over, because I'm a fan. Because people forget I am a lifelong obsessive fan of WWE. I just happen to love TNA as well. Same with
You're a wrestling fan.
I am exactly a wrestling fan. I'm the right kind of wrestling fan, a guy who goes looking for more of it and probably has a bit of a problem. But if we're being honest, but it's like, yeah, this was great because Dana Brooke, and same with Dolph Ziggler, who's now Nick Namath. Sometimes people who have become a little bit dull, or they're not getting much in the way creative, or maybe we're taking them for granted, or whatever it might be in WWE. Sometimes they go to TNA and they set the world on fire. Now, that's exactly what Nick Namath has done in many ways. And Ash by Elegance, like her new gimmick, it's one we've seen before from other people, but she's doing it very, very well. It's like, yes, we all know her as Dana Brooke. Like, TNA have even acknowledged that on TV. And WWE deliberately referred to her as Dana Brooke and then corrected themselves and went, oh, Ash by Elegance, which is a nice touch. But it's, oh, hello. Nice to see you too, Mr. Mini Gamer. But anyway, I love this job. But yeah, and but then, like, so seeing her in TNA in this new gimmick, has been really has been nice. It's given her a new lease of life, and she's getting to be the best kind of heel. She's got using what comes naturally to her. You know, she doesn't really want to get it on in the ring. She wants to kind of strut about, be a heel, and let people underestimate her before she actually, because she's dating a Brooke, she can bloody go. And it was nice to kind of see someone like her in her new gimmick with TNA, and then at the same time, love you too, dude. And then mix it up with someone like Tatum Paxley, who I actually think out of all, like, I'm not. You're going to hate me for this, Andy, but a lot of some of the women and actually some of the men too in NXT. I often find myself, particularly on Level Up, going, "Who?"
Yeah,
it's like, who?
No, I agree.
Where Tatum Paxley has actually captured my attention. I think she's got a ridiculous NXT name, but she's a great character, and she's got some really good promos, had some good segments. So I don't think she's beating Jordynne Grace. I obviously think Jordynne Grace beating her was the right call, but it's nice to see her mix it up because she gets the experience of mixing it up with Dana Brooke, Ash by Elegance, the experience of mixing it up with Jordynne Grace and people like that, and gets the exposure of being on TNA. And she might get a bit of a cult following on TNA. But then there's the situations where it's a big deal for her. It's a really great way to build her up and turn her into something. So arguably, you know, Roxanne Perez is Roxy. You know, anyone who watches Ring of Honor will know who she is. She's a big deal in wrestling, even before WWE in many ways. Tatum Paxley's not the same. So, yeah, it's a short answer. I loved it. I think all four people are in different places, and it was great.
I don't know why, but Tatum Paxley reminds me. Is it Saxton Huxley that used to be in? WWE?
Yeah.
Like the names just sound like really similar, and I think like his was actually his like name that he's had for ages. But it's not a. I don't know. It's not one that you could kind of just imagine like one day being a headline WrestleMania event of Tatum. It just doesn't kind of roll off the tongue and look great.
It sounds like, I don't know, it sounds like a brand of sage and onion stuffing. I don't know why it reminds me of that, but it's like, I pushed the boat out this Christmas, kids. I got a box of Tatum Paxley to go with
Maybe
the
like
potatoes.
Mortimer Mason style, like it's like a proper
yeah, do you know what I mean? It's like Tatum Paxley.
We found out John is in the US.
Good. Where are you, John?
That doesn't narrow it down too much, but at least we know he's not in the UK because it's like I'm hearing it's very hot in the US at the moment. As in, like what we've had today was like 25 degrees. I think you'd find that quite. But anyway, thanks, Mark, by the way, for doing that, doing the deed there for Mr. Minigamer, who decided to randomly turn up and start some abusive.
Mr. Minigame, if you're still watching, mate, I live for this. I live for that. So
thank you for your contribution. Have a good night.
Yeah. The algorithm thanks you, and so does our monetization. But there we go.
We then have also seen, away from the women's side of things, the Rascalz have been kind of thrown back together somewhat, which was quite a surprise because obviously we used to have, was MSK that went under when they were in NXT, where we only got two of the three. Now there was some dubious circumstances as to how we lost one of them, and you know we won't go into details because some of it was quite strong allegations. Some of it was messing around in a picture and doing silly pictures that you shouldn't have done. But it's nice to see that we're in a place where we can get the Rascalz back together. And not only are the Rascalz kind of getting back together on NXT, that we've seen a match that they had against the Gallus boys tomorrow on Slammiversary, we're also getting the Rascalz versus No Quarter Catch Crew as well. So NXT sending some people across the Slammiversary, which is lovely to see because we'll actually see. I think this could be a pretty cool match because it's a clash of technical versus high fly and high octane stuff, and also it's a little bit of a reward for the TNA fans as well because obviously there'll be a lot of TNA fans who big Rascalz fans from back in the day. It's been it must have been about 3 or 4 years since they've been in TNA now, isn't it?
It's a really weird one because all three of them left together and they all went to NXT as a trio. Then Trey Miguel never quite turned up, and
I thought Trey just stayed in TNA because like WWE just never
No, he
signed.
left. No,
Did he?
he
Oh,
left.
okay.
I I probably should have asked him. I've spoken to him a couple of times, but he all three of them left. They made a big song and dance out of all three of them leaving. They put their t-shirts over the TNA ring and they were gone. And then one of them never rocked up. And then obviously, like I think he was called Nash Carter, wasn't he, in NXT? Like I'm not going to go into detail on that. I actually think he's probably a good guy who just made an immature mistake. I think we should leave it at that because I think that's the truth. And you can come back from an immature mistake because we've all made them. I make them every day. I'm known for them. It's my gimmick. But yeah, so Wesley though, Desmond Xavier, Wesley has become a. I know I give his name a lot of stick. If you're a long-term listener of this channel, you'll know that. But he's brilliant. Like be as Wesley Desmond Xavier, he's always been a big star and someone with a huge ton of potential. But the Rascalz is a great wrestling gimmick, and it was daft to ever separate them, really. Now, but if they can continue to exist as a stable, but across two promotions, well, that's just fine. That's great. And No Quarter Catch Crew, I think I'm not a massive fan of the other two. I know one of them has just left WWE shortly after his brother as well. But obviously, Charlie Dempsey's got a bright future. We all know who his dad is. They don't put that over quite often on TV because they want him to shine on his own. I know that makes sense. But I think his delivery with talking needs a bit of work, but in the ring, he's flawless. So, yeah, I'm really looking forward to this match.
He's got quite a strange cadence when he talks to Dempsey.
He does.
It's like he's got this weird mashup of a British and American accent, and it's like it's really difficult to place. And I don't know if it's something that's like naturally come across, or like I don't know. I just don't get it because I thought he was like British, but his accent seems to suggest that he spent a long time in the US or Canada or somewhere because it's got a strange drawl to it. I'm into it. It's kind of cool, but I do feel like he needs to find now because the kind of group has fallen apart because of what happened. I do feel like maybe it's time for him to go it alone, and I'd like to see Regal involved in that because they had that interaction where he was like, "Got my eye on you, son," and he was kind of like a wink, wink, nudge, nudge thing. But it's like, no, steer into it because Regal's a big deal, and like I just feel like there's a lot of untapped potential there. So personally, I think that's the way they should go. But yeah, you did say there, by the way, the members that we see there of No Quarter Catch Crew is Charlie Dempsey in the middle, and then we've got Miles Bourne on the right, and then Tavion Heights on the left. And we used to have Drew Gulak and Damon Kemp, but both of them have now left the company, I believe. Well, definitely Gulak has. So yeah, so we're going to see this at Slammiversary. What can fans expect from this, do you reckon, Sam?
It's like you said, it's a stash of Cliles, a clash of styles. I have had a couple of beers at that barbecue, shocker. But yeah, because obviously, the Rascalz are bouncy guys, they're high flyers, but they're great at it because there are, dare I say, there are some copy paste high flyers in the business these days. There's a lot of them. It's not as special as it used to be. When Ricochet and Will Ospreay were setting arenas on fire the way they did. But they're great. It's their charisma that puts them over. And they've been heels for the longest time on TNA for a few years. And but I think now that they've reconnected with Wesley and they're up against some bigger heels, it's kind of made the baby faces because what's he called? Not Nash Carter. What's his name on TNA? I forget. There's so many names I'm juggling. But he got a real babyface promo on TNA a couple of weeks ago about, look, I've been to NXT. I've been over there. I've got a lot of love. I've got a lot of friends from over there. But you come here and attack us. And nah. Come back next week and we'll sort this out. So it's like it was a real babyface promo. But I don't know who's going to win because we can't just have WWE steamrolling TNA. There's got to be some give and take. But it'll be interesting to see what happens. But yeah, we've got 3 ground and pounders versus 3 high flyers. So colour me intrigued.
Zachary Wentz, by the way.
Zachary Wentz, that's it.
Yeah. who I believe, I don't know if they're married or they're certainly together, is with Gigi Dolan, who we haven't seen in NXT for a little while now. So there's still, there's still partnerships all over the place, but even behind the scenes, TNA and WWE. So
which is why. Sorry. I'll just quickly one quick little thing about that, which is and this is why some of the tribalism. I'm not going to get on my soapbox, I promise. But this is why some of the tribalism is often quite silly, because before the advent of AEW, there's a story that a couple of WWE guys and TNA guys have told me now, and it was one of the WrestleManias a few years ago. Now, the WWE guys were booked in this hotel in one city, and the TNA guys are actually booked in the same hotel. And the TNA guys were all at the bar, like in this glass building, just waiting for whatever it is they were waiting for. And then a big coach pulls up, and a load of other people get out. It's the crew and the superstars from WWE. And some people, when they hear that story, go, "Ooh, what happened? Were there fights?" No, there weren't fights. 2 locker rooms got drunk together and went, "Way!" when they saw each other. They all just had a blast. And I've heard that story now from multiple sources in both companies. And like, I think if anybody's ever getting tribal, my promotion, know that that is how the wrestlers see it. They see each other as colleagues and mates. So they.
I do love the idea that people are expecting some weird West Side Story fight in between them.
No, they just got drunk. That's all they did.
I mean, you got to remember as well, like a lot of these guys have worked both sides. Like they have friends in both locker rooms. Like sometimes they'll be best friends in like different locker rooms or like partners in them and things like that. So the idea that they would hate each other, I think is, there'll be the odd one or two, like superstars or wrestlers or whoever that aren't really welcome to hang out with certain sections. And that's not a secret. Like I think most people would know CM Punk is not going to be invited to, any kind of cookout over AEW. It's not going to happen. And Cody might not be invited to certain places. And then he probably will be, because I think certain, things are blown out of proportion. So I just think, people just need to go, oh, this is really cool. We get wrestlers who actually just want to wrestle and get on with their jobs and put on the best shows for the fans. John G, member for a month. That sounds amazing. So thank you very much for that. And he's saying Joe Hendry said that when he wins the TNA title, he's going to call out John Cena. I haven't heard that, but I know he's been doing a lot of press for Slammiversary, so it wouldn't surprise me. We are going to get on to Joe Hendry. I can't remember if it's next or not. Yes, it is. We are going to get on to Joe Hendry now, because Joe Hendry, quite frankly, and I've said his name a few times, I wish he would appear. I did see him last week.
You did?
At North Wrestling. And you can go check out my review of North Wrestling's Thunderstruck 2 event over on WrestleSphere as well. It was a great event. And we'll talk a little bit more about what went on there, because he just released his video as well. But we had Joe Hendry and Frankie Kazarian both join the Battle Royale to try and get a NXT Championship shot a few weeks ago. And again, this is one of those ones where it was almost like a TNA storyline spilt into that match, where Frankie eliminated Joe Hendry very quickly in the match, and Joe Hendry then went on and promised to say, you know what, I'm going to turn up at any show at any time, like that I damn well choose to. And he said that to Shawn Michaels. So that was a really cool moment as well for them. So again, Frankie in particular, having him a TNA stalwart, a legend on NXT, was quite a surreal moment. And it probably didn't get as big a sort of moment as it should have done, but it was still a really cool thing to see, especially for someone like yourself, Sam, who is such a big fan of both. What was your thought when he was kind of announced out to the ring?
It reminded me as well. I remember just thinking, for anyone who doesn't know this, Andy and I were having dinner with the rest of the Gimme a Holiday guys in a bar in LA before Mania, and Bully Ray and Frankie Kazarian walked past us, and we because we're journos, we try not to be too marky. We try and keep our cool and be like, hey guys, yeah, okay. Because we've got to we might end up interviewing them at some point, so we can't be. But while we're at the bar, we asked Frankie Kazarian for a picture, just because a bit of fun. And there's an awesome picture, isn't there, Andy, of you, me, Dan Hargreaves, and Kazarian's in the middle, being the heavy metal rebel.
And I think did Bully Ray not take it?
Yes, I think Bully Ray took the picture. Yes, he did. Or did he? Or is he in the background getting a beer? I can't remember. But he was there. Yeah. Yeah, or maybe he took one of them. I can't remember, but yeah, he was there, and he was because I remember when I shook hands with Bully Ray, I thought, my God, he's not even trying, he's going to break my hand because he's a big boy. But anyway, yeah, I loved it because it's like obviously Joe Hendry's a big star, and Moose even said a few days ago he's the next John Cena, and that's heady praise, and that's coming from Moose. That's coming from the current TNA champion. Saying that about one of his colleagues who's technically lower on the card than he is. So that's incredible. But what's great about Kazarian is Kazarian's one of those people who's never had a run in WWE, but would have been bloody brilliant. Now, he still could, like never say never. But I think his role now is to be a foil. But it was nice to see. It reminded me of when Alex Shelley turned up for that match with Kushida that time. It almost felt like it was done with some reverence, even though he was a heel and he was there to further a story with him and Hendry across both promotions. But yeah, I loved it. They actually haven't done anything in this TNA NXT thing that I've not liked yet. And I think there's a lot more to come from what I hear, what I know, and what I think.
Yeah. And I mean, we'll talk here on Joe Hendry in general. Like, he's almost made himself I don't know, he's made himself must see, because a lot of people like might not know this, but Joe Hendry's been on the UK scene for over a decade. Like, he was the guy who was around when WCPW was going and Defiant Wrestling. He was doing those kind of circuits. He was on ICW for ages. You can go back and watch all his YouTube stuff. He was doing the music shtick for years. Like, you can go back and watch all of them. They're all available. Hilarious work. And it was one of those ones where if you see him, if you were at one of those shows live, you'd laugh your ass off, because it was amazing that he would go through that trouble. Like the Drew McIntyre, I'm Drew, Dabba Dee Dabba Die is amazing. And you know, like, I was there the night he did the Scotty Too Hotty one, where you know, and I was like in stitches and thought, this is amazing. And I think that was the one where it really started to gain traction, going like, who's this guy? He's absolutely tearing Scotty Too Hotty apart. And it was really nice because he actually mentioned that was the moment where he went, okay, if this is what it is, if this is what my wrestling career is, that's fine. But since then, he's gone on and he's released his theme song, and he at one point was #1 on the charts, you know, in both America and the UK. And he's the one who's been behind it. He's created his own buzz, which is what, you know, back in the day the wrestlers used to do. And now TNA and NXT are kind of getting behind that and going, okay, let's use the momentum. Let's kind of keep pushing. And I can't believe I still see questions saying like, what's it like when the bell rings though? I've never seen a Joe Hendry match. Go and watch a Joe Hendry match.
Yeah, he just really spoken.
Go watch Kurt Angle versus Joe Hendry from back in the day, WCPW. Incredible match. There's so many things you go watch. And Joe Hendry is going to prove over the next however many weeks and months that actually he is that guy. And can he go? You know, he'll never get to the heights of John Cena, just purely because I think the days of superstars like that are a thing of the past. I just don't see it anymore. But I can completely see Joe Hendry being the next huge thing, which is what we are seeing now.
I remember, I think I owe him an apology actually, and you know, it's highly likely you and I will talk to him again. And didn't he signed something for me last time you saw him, didn't he?
Yeah.
Well? Have you got it there? You got that there? Yeah. Hey, to Sam. Cheers, Joe. But like, because last time I spoke to him, he said something, and I doubted him. He said, when you've got the entrance right, that's half the battle. And I remember thinking to myself at the time, is it though? Is that true? Because we've seen some pretty, like, Karrion Kross's entrance was phenomenal, and he's just kind of withered on the vine. But I think it is. I think he's right, but I'd add a caveat to it, which is it's got to be congruent and work for you. It's got to be the right entrance at the right time.
Yeah,
and I would actually say to Joe, like, your entrance is great, mate, but it's you making it happen, not your entrance. Your entrance is cracking. And and by the way, one final thing on this. Speaking of his music videos, folks, if you haven't seen I'm the Cheez-It Champion video yet, you need to, because you will die. he has this dummy of AJ Francis, aka Top Dollar, just sat there like this, and it's just hilarious. Like, I think that's the best one he's done so far. I had that on repeat when he released it because it was just cracking me up no end. But yeah, so go see that one.
But yeah, as I was lucky enough last week to see him, and the place came absolutely unglued.
Yeah.
And this is, it's such a weird thing where you can see him on a Tuesday on NXT main event in a Tuesday and being on commentary or whatever, and then on the Saturday he was in Newcastle, and then on the Sunday I think he was in Edinburgh, and then he's back across like this next week. He was on NXT again. And then he's going to be on Slammiversary on Saturday. The guy is hustling. He is going to do whatever it takes to be on top. And I'm actually just really stoked for someone who after speaking to him, after seeing him however many years, that hard work does pay off. And like, maybe this is as good as it gets for him, but he deserves every single minute in the spotlight that he's getting right now. So,
it's pretty damn good if it is. Do you know what I mean? Like, if that's true, it's pretty damn good.
Yeah.
So,
and
yeah,
as Mark said, like, there's a lot of noise around Joe Hendry now being the favourite to win the TNA championship this Saturday, which would be huge because, to get there, he's going to have to beat some of the all-time royalty. You've got Josh Alexander, Frankie Kazarian, the champion Moose at the moment, Nick Nemeth, also formerly known as Dolph Ziggler, and Steve Macklin. So there's some huge TNA ex-champions in there, and Nick Nemeth as well. I'm not saying that on any kind of derogatory way. It's just the fact that Dolph Ziggler has been around the block. He knows his way around. Yeah. If Joe Hendry comes out on top of that, TNA are showing that they've got their finger on the pulse. They know like what's hot at the moment. And if they pull the trigger on him, I think it's because they want him to stick around for a little bit longer because, hey, if NXT come knocking and WWE come knocking, I'd love to see a massive arena or a stadium do the Joe Hendry theme song.
Oh, it's coming. We will see it. It wouldn't surprise me, Andy, in the next couple of years, we're sat at WrestleMania, because obviously we're going to go again, aren't we? Let's be honest. It's going to happen at some point. Even if it isn't Vegas, it's coming. And I do believe we will be sat at WrestleMania and we'll hear his music. Seriously, like, might be a year or two from now, whenever it might be, but when it happens, mark me now. We'll acknowledge that when it happens because it's going to happen.
So yeah, tune in for Slammiversary, which I believe I'll let you, Sam. How can people watch Slammiversary?
Yeah, well, it's the easiest way to do it, folks. There's a few ways, but the easiest and the cheapest way to do it is to download the TNA Plus app. Sign up to that. I think you can do it like a month at a time, or you can do it by 12 months. I think I just bought 12 months and added it to my phone contract. And then when my phone bill came that month, I was like, oh my God. But yeah, that's what happened. But yeah, so do that. That's the cheapest way to do it. That buys you access to all of their TV as well, so you can watch. And here's the thing: if you're an NXT fan, they've been WWE and TNA have been very clever now. If you want to get the full NXT experience, you've got to watch TNA now. And if you want to get the full TNA experience, you've got to watch NXT. Now, they've made sure there were separate TNA and NXT stories that aren't to do with the crossover. But I'd say, mark my words, more is coming. Every week, every month, TNA and WWE are sitting down with each other and they're saying, right, how do we up the ante? Where do we go with this? And I'll just quickly give people a little bit of a preview to the piece, the Rascalz piece, if I can, Andy. I think this is ultimately building to a TNA invasion of WWE. I think WWE are ultimately going to win it, but it's going to create a system and a situation where WWE give TNA their respect and acknowledge them as their official rival in terms of the business and in terms of a storyline in kayfabe. Now, that does something very, very powerful for both companies. Not only does it make WWE look magnanimous, not only about the working with TNA and stuff like that, it also elevates TNA and it makes making them the official rival of WWE, which is where this is all going, makes TNA, puts them on a higher keel than AEW. Now, they're not technically there in terms of, size of the company. That's just an objective thing. But it's all about perception. So WWE and TNA are essentially cutting AEW out a little bit. Now AEW can go and do the same thing with Ring of Honor. That'd be awesome. I hope they do. But it's you can tell both companies have had that conversation, and that's what they're building towards, because that elevates TNA and it makes WWE look good at the same time. And in doing so, both companies kind of have a bit of a dig, somewhat, or a bit of they managed to trivialize their main rival at the same time. And AEW fits in a very unique spot where it is the main rival of WWE and TNA at the same time. And TNA and WWE have almost twigged that. And it's also a way for WWE to not acknowledge AEW. They're going straight to acknowledging TNA. So it's very powerful, and it's incredibly clever business strategy and marketing. But the main thing is, for fans, it'll give us a lot of awesome storylines. And I don't mean any of this as an attack on AEW, by the way. I'm an AEW fan. I'm just pointing out from a business point of view, from a marketing point of view, what the agenda might be here and why it's actually quite clever. So there we go. So that's why this is working. And as long as they both continue to treat each other with respect, sky's the limit.
Well, I think one of the biggest marks of respect that you could get is if this man were to show up tomorrow. And there is talks about it because it does feel like the biggest thing that WWE could give back to TNA is to lend them AJ Styles for a night. I don't know where he fits in because the card is pretty stacked. We've just seen the main event is an elimination match. Does he get involved? And then that whoever it is that he screws over or something, that is a rivalry that they can continue on both shows. We've just seen him went across to Pro Wrestling Noah and he had a match against Marufuji. So WWE's not against sending their talent out if it gives the talent something and it gives the promotion something. And it's also very clever in the sense of they're building bridges with strategic partners because they know that they'll get something back out of it. So sending AJ Styles across to that is really cool. But do we see AJ Styles at Slammiversary? I think we do in some way, shape, or form. I think it's happening.
I actually think it's too early for that. I think that might be the holy grail of this thing. I think that might be something they save because right now they're doing it with NXT. Now, which is a great idea.
Main roster yet.
Yeah. Now, to be fair, TNA and NXT works quite nicely, but TNA are eventually going to say, all right, boys, what we really want is to have a crack at the main roster. What we really want is to do Survivor Series, and basically have WWE versus TNA at Survivor Series. Let's make brand loyalty mean something. Let's do that. And AEW could be in the Stone Cold Steve Austin position with WWE and WCW. He could be the kingmaker. He could be somebody who could. He's a former TNA champion. He made his name in TNA and somewhat Ring of Honor and New Japan, but a lot of people know him from WWE. So he is somebody who'll be right smack bang in the middle and have his loyalty tested. And it's also like saving AJ until that moment. I actually think is the cleverest thing to do. And what you could also do there as well is you could potentially have Bullet Club officially show up in WWE for the first time ever through TNA, because obviously AJ Styles is a former leader of Bullet Club. WWE have acknowledged that quite a bit recently with the whole Cody Rhodes feud. They really leaned into that with the two of them being, two former Bullet Club guys. So there's a lot of good storyline they could do here, and I think Triple H, when he's alone at home, sat in his easy chair with his whiskey, just clinking the ice cubes about and having a think. He's thought of this already, and so have the guys at TNA. It'd be great to see AJ at Slammiversary. I'll pop out my pants, but I think it's too early for this particular load to be released.
Well, watch your space. Also, quite frankly, by the way, whoever took this photo for WWE, well done, because that goes hard. That's WrestleMania. This is why when people go, AJ Styles might not stick around in WWE. Look at what he's looking at right now. Like that is a packed out stadium full of people who are all like, you know, there to see your match against LA Knight. And like, that's so badass. And this picture just goes hard for me. So, you know, well done, WB. We're going to wrap it up because I know you guys like these kind of like slightly shorter videos as well. And thank you very much for watching along. So really appreciate it. Any time that you spend with us is always very much appreciated. Every watch, like, subscribe, everything like that is appreciated on both Gimme a Hole Yeah and Wrestling Royalty. So if you have spent your Friday evening with us, thank you very much. And if you are watching this after the fact, then I hope you are having a lovely time watching it. Just drop us a comment. We will respond to you in the comments, I promise. Again, anyone who's kind of taken them a membership, so John G, looking at you, thank you very much for joining us. So yeah, go check out WrestleSphere.com. Go check out Gimme a Hole Yeah. Make sure you're subscribed over there. Make sure you check out the rest of our videos on Wrestling Royalty. Friday night features every Friday night. We'll go through the biggest talking point of the week. And this week, where else to go other than NXTNA and Slammiversary?
Do you mind, Andy, if I make a quick announcement?
Go for it. The floor is yours, my friend.
So now, I didn't want to do a separate stream about this on my own because I thought a tweet was enough. I didn't want to be narcissistic, but as everybody knows, I'm no longer basically the host for SmackDown, mainly because just the late nights I can't really justify the late nights with health and fitness and other things that I've got going on. But I'm still very much committed to Gimme a Hole Yeah. So I've been having to think about what I can do to still be involved a lot more and do my own thing. So like Dom's got his Wyatt 6 stuff, which is really, really done well. Anthony, for example, has got here, you know, the gaming with 2K. Dan does his crates and a load of other stuff. So one thing I get asked to do a lot is a bit of fantasy booking. So I think every couple of weeks I'll fantasy book a different story, either in WWE, AEW, or TNA. So whoever's watching, I think the big one right now is the Wyatt 6 and the Bloodline, perhaps. And, you know, they're the two big ones in WWE. So I might do them first. But, yeah, we're going to probably do a separate series. It'll probably be my thing. They might even be pre-recorded so I can mess about with slides and stuff. But, yeah, we'll be doing a fantasy booking series. If anybody's got anything they want to see, let me know, and I will be doing requests because I'm going to run out of my own ideas very, very quickly. So it makes sense for you guys to tell me what you want me to do, and then I'll make something around it, and I'll go hard. I'll go ham on the fantasy booking, which is what I like to do. So Andy, back to you.
No worries. I was wanting to give you the floor and go.
I like that, yeah.
But yeah, we'll wrap things up. And again, our pleasure, and thank you very much, John and Mark, and everyone else who's been in the chat as well. Even if you get someone who gave us abuse, thank you for joining us. That's absolutely fine. Anyway,
doing now.
We're going to leave it there. Thank you again. Make sure you hit that subscribe button. Make sure you hit that like button as well. Helps us be able to reach more, get that community lifted up, and you know, more and more people can join in the conversation, which is what it's all about as well. But wherever you are, have a lovely weekend. If you are watching Slammiversary, I hope it's an amazing event. If you're watching anything else, enjoy the hell out of it. It's wrestling. That's why we're all here. But oh, I did see, by the way, sorry, Motor City Machine Guns are like linked to be going to NXT or WWE, which just further cements this NXT and TNA side of things. So, yes, thank you very much.
Anthony's not here. Anthony's our beardy colleague on a Wednesday night, Tim.
Well, see, this I'm lost for words. Like, if I don't get confused with Sam, someone confuses one of us with Anthony. But I appreciate you being here. But as I say, we're going to leave it there.
Thank you for the compliment. Thank you for the compliment.
I've been Andy. He's been Sam. This has been Wrestling Royalty and Gimme a Hole Yeah. Have a good one, guys.